Story 1. This is kinda a mixture between malicious compliance and I don't work here. Back in the late 90s, I worked in a bar in a small town in rural Ireland, approximately 500 people, 3 pubs, 1 hotel. It's a wee seaside village and quite picturesque, and is therefore plagued by tourists during any holidays. We lived directly opposite the hotel. The hotel was about to be razed to the ground and rebuilt without the 60 years of nicotine stains. The demolition was due to start in January, and the work was due to be completed sometime in 2003. It's a small town. Everyone knows everything as long as it's about someone else's business. The hotel's reception phone number is 1 number away from my parents' landline number. It's New Year's Eve, or more accurately approximately for on New Year's Day. I'm home from my shift dealing with drunk Egypts that, as this was the 90s, want nothing but Baileys and cream de men's shots and Bacardi breezers, with the occasional Irish coffee and pint of Guinness that they'll order last as an afterthought and then complain about the wait. At 4 a.m. in my parents' living room, I'm having a wee decompress and a whiskey when the phone rings and my instinct kicks in. Hey, Happy New Year. A slurred Belfast accent winds into my auditory canal. For most people reading this, when you think of an Irish accent, you probably think of a Cork or Galway accent, nice and lyrical. This is not the case with a spied Belfast accent. Think of a dentist drill that runs on tonic wine ordering McDonald's through its nasal passages. Spied. Noun. If you're English, think chav. Scottish, think Ned. Merkin, think white trash, I guess, etc., etc. All right, I've had a crackin' time tonight. We're booking the same nights for next year. Room 109, Jamie Witchface. Sorry mate, you'll have bother. Town Name Hotel is closing in January and reopening in 2003. And the number for reception is 555 545. This is a private residence. How would you know that? You said this was the bar. Just put me through to reception, you lazy. She said, a derogatory term for a country person. Scram off mate, I know. Razor-sharp wit. Oscar Wilde would be proud. I hang up and my phone rings a moment later. Don't you dare hang up on me, you. More bad names. Town Name Hotel reception is 555 5545. This is a private residence on 555 5554. Don't call again. This happens a few more times because the daft drunk witch is just hitting redial. It escalates with varying degrees of profanity as we both have drinks taken, me to a lesser extent. I unplug the phone from the wall. A few minutes pass. I'm formulating a plan. I plug the phone back in. Phone rings and I put on my best receptionist voice. Good morning, Town Name Hotel reception. How can I help you? Is that Mr. J. Witchface from room 109? How may I be of service? That's better. I want to book for next year same nights. Certainly, Mr. Witchface. We even have a 50% loyalty discount as you're a previous guest, same days. All right. Okay, that's all booked in for next year. Arriving on the morning of the 31st? Yes. Brilliant. Wonderful. We will see you then. That year, I went away to university, came back for Christmas. Many things happened in the time in between, but then New Year's Eve came along. My folks and I were in the living room looking out at a gigantic hole that used to be a hotel, and our other windows look out over the bay, and having a few beers. A car we don't recognize pulls up opposite the hole where the hotel used to be, and 3 confused-looking Belfast spies get out beside the big hole where Town Name Hotel used to be. Something clicks in the back of my head, and I am just pishing myself laughing. I explained the whole thing to my dad, who I'd relayed the story to. These jerks drove about an hour to get here just to find out they've got nowhere to stay. We enjoy the show and open fresh tins as they start screaming at each other in front of our house. It was a fun New York Eve. Story 2. Hey guys, this is my first post in this subreddit. I've spent time reading so many stories about entitled people, and I was reminded of a person I knew in middle school. Context: I'm in a wheelchair. I have a physical disability called cerebral palsy, which basically makes my legs weaker than other people's, so I can't walk. The disability varies from person to person, but that was simply my case. So I basically need someone to help me do certain things at school. Now, onto the story. From elementary to my last year of middle school, I had a really nice aide who I grew really close to, having known her for 6 years up to this point. One day, nice aide pulls me to the side and tells me good news and bad news. The good news is that she had been promoted to a school nurse by the district, and the bad news, I was getting a new aide. Me, being as emotional as I am, was destroyed by this, but still tried to be happy for her because we were friends. This is where Karen comes in. Karen, not her real name, obviously, works alongside the nice aide and I for the first day or two, to learn my schedule and such. She was nice as pie those first few days, but I still had a heavy heart and didn't open up to her easily. I had a bad feeling, and I turned out to be right. The rest of the year with Karen, everything went downhill fast. For one thing, Karen never smiled or laughed around me like the nice aide had. She only seems happy around the other faculty. She always had a scowl on her face and seemed to hate her job. She was never enthusiastic or anything like that, and was always rude and blunt towards me. She never listened to what I had to say, and that was the beginning. It really started to heat up when she came over to me during lunch and started saying something. I calmly tried to explain my side of things, and she wouldn't listen, so I started to get agitated real quick. It got to a point where I slammed my hand down on the table to try and get her to listen to what I had to say. It went something like this. Listen to me, Karen. I have an opinion too, you know? And I'm trying to make a point here. Okay, detention for you then? What the heck? That was disrespectful. Understandably, I wanted to retaliate with a comment like, "Oh really, I was disrespectful to you, Karen?" But I didn't. Karen was mad. When we got into the hallway, I burst into tears. I've always been a pretty good kid. Sure, I have quite the temper, but I'd only had one detention ever before these experiences. I was understandably shocked and upset, but Karen stood her ground. That was detention number 1. Fast forward several weeks, and the same scenario occurs, detention number 2. After the second one, I really started walking on eggshells. Anything could upset Karen. I dreaded going to school because I didn't want to deal with her nonsense. Everything was as fine as it could possibly be in this situation, until the end of the year rolled around. I was waiting for my bus to come with Karen, and she said something nitpicky about me. And what did I do? I simply crossed my arms and looked away, staying silent to avoid my temper flaring up. That which gave me 2 more detentions for disrespect for that, and I came home crying. I told my mom the story, and she set up a meeting with Karen and the principal. When my mother arrived on the day of the meeting, she handed me an iced coffee she bought for me. When she sits down, Karen rolled her eyes and huffed at my mom. My mom went off. She was not happy. I don't remember most of the conversation, but I know that my detentions were eventually revoked and everything was resolved. I also know that Karen got fired and no longer works in the district. And with that I say, good riddance. Story 3. Super Michael was soon running round Los Santos, blowing stuff up and shotgunning people in the face. Such good fun. I sometimes do this as a way of anger management, and it really does work. So I'm there, killing not real people with all the overpowered weapons mods give you when my door buzzer goes. Pause game, go to the door. Entitled Mother, my son was watching you play that game, and I want you to stop playing it please. Me, wait, I'm sorry what? I turned to my window, and this kid, like 7, had his face pressed up against the window. That's a violent game, and you should play something nicer. Why the hell are you letting your kid get that close to my house? You're lucky I didn't call the police for trespassing. Please go away or I will. Entitled Father, are you deaf? She said to play a nicer game. I roll my eyes. I don't care, okay? I just don't care. This is my house, where I can do whatever I want. If you look in and see it, decide you don't like it. That's your issue, not mine. My son doesn't want to watch that violent game. Can you play Minecraft instead? No, stop looking through my windows and go away please. This is stupid. You can't dictate what games I'm allowed to play. Entitled Mother, I'm calling the police. You're being very rude and not cooperating. Me, go ahead. So I go back to my game and make a fuss of turning my screen a little more to the window because it's more comfortable for me and carry on blowing stuff up. I had just strapped some sticky bombs to a passing bus and detonated it, and then unloaded my minigun into a dude's face, when I heard a scream of disgust from outside. The entitled mother, the kid, and the entitled father are still at my window. So I leave the game running, get my DSLR camera, take their photo, and pick up my landline. All while standing in the window so they can see me. I dial the police and get put through to the non-emergency line. Me, hello. Yeah, hi. There's 3 strangers outside my window, and they won't go away. I just shut my curtains hoping they would leave, but now they are banging on the window screaming at me. That last part was total lies. Police, okay, we will send someone over. About 10 minutes later, a cop car pulled up outside my house. By this point, I really had shut my curtains hoping it might make them leave. For context, the windows in my apartment are single glazed, which means the outside is real easy to hear. Conversations, cars on the street outside, cans bouncing about in the wind, annoying shit like that. Anyway, the officers in the car start talking to the entitled parents and kid outside. I can't hear too well 'cause I'm still blowing stuff up at Los Santos Airport, but I lower the speaker volume just enough to hear what's being said. Entitled father, he was letting my son watch a violent game through his windows and encouraging him to tell him who to kill next in the video game. Officer, right. He was talking through an open window. Entitled mother, yes he was. The second officer knocked on my door and talked to me. I showed her that the only window that was even able to open was the one that was over the entrance to the basement underneath me, and there was no way anyone could stand there to talk through the window. I showed her the photo I took of them gawking at me, and she left. Both parents were fined for harassment of a private residence, or something to that effect. I couldn't hear properly. I was laughing at them too loud. They also were told if they didn't leave right now, they would be arrested for trespassing as well. The both of them were yelling and shouting about how my video games were inappropriate for kids, and I say to myself out loud, so why were you letting your snotty-nosed, red-faced goblin child stare through my window for 20 minutes? I spent the next hour laughing and giggling to myself, while keeping one eye on the front window in case they came back. So for context, my apartment is at street level. Look out my front windows and can see cars and people going about their day. I'm right by the traffic lights, seen a few people go through red lights too, and had a giggle at it. Anyway, Saturday afternoon, I was chilling on Minecraft mining away with me freshly made diamond pickaxe. After a while, I decided I wanted to play some GTA V with mods and see what utter chaos I could unleash. Story 4. Context. For those unaware, in the US, we do not allow unaccompanied children, 16 and under, into a rated R movie. They must be with a parent guardian, basically someone 21 plus. Thus, whenever a high-profile rated R movie is released, we station an usher at the door of the auditorium who checks tickets and IDs to ensure everyone is allowed in. Some kids buy tickets for another movie and try to sneak in. Other times parents buy the tickets and then give them to their kid. For your information, even if the parent says that it's okay for the kid to go in alone, it is still not allowed. Story. My coworker Bill was stationed at the auditorium door, and I was hanging out nearby just chatting with Bill and a couple other ushers while waiting for another movie to end so that we could clean up. 2 kids, 8 or 9, come up to Bill with their tickets. Bill told them they couldn't enter without a parent. One of the kids began to throw a mini tantrum. Entitled kid. My dad bought us the tickets. He said we could come see it. We really want to see this movie. Bill. Sorry, but you're not allowed in without an adult. But he said we could come. We're allowed to see it. He said so. Bill, as he was required to do, stood his ground and didn't let the kids in. telling them they could either get a refund or have the dad come with them. The kids left, out of sight, out of mind, as we went about our business. About 30 minutes later, Bill and I ended up on break at the same time, and decided to walk down to the bookstore. The theater was in a large strip center. A couple of stores away was a large bookstore chain. As we walk through the lobby, the entitled kid and his friend are talking to the entitled dad, and they spot Bill. Entitled kid, that's him. The entitled dad stomps over to Bill, completely ignoring me, and begins to lay into him. Keep in mind we were on break and had jackets on over our work shirts, clearly not on the clock. "What's the matter with you? Not letting my kid into the movie? You got a problem with my boy?" Bill: "Sorry, no one under 17 is allowed into a rated R movie without an adult." Bill and I turned and kept walking, being on break and all, while the guy stood there steaming. Once we get outside and start down the sidewalk, we hear shouting from behind us. The entitled dad, kids in tow, has followed us outside. "Don't you walk away from me? You're going to let my kid in there. I said it's okay so he can go in without me. Go let him in right now." Bill, while still walking: "You can speak to a manager if you want. Nothing I can do." "Screw you and your manager. You're the jerk who stopped him, so you're going to fix it." "Sorry, but we're not on the clock. You can go back and speak to a manager if you want, but there's nothing we can do." "Are you his dog? Not letting my kid in. You're just a bunch of stupid dogs." "Whatever." We kept on walking, and he kept following, shouting obscenities, so we started laughing at how ridiculous it was getting, which made him even more angry. We make it to the bookstore and go in, walking over to the big display window that faces the sidewalk, and there is the entitled dad, pacing back and forth as he glares at us, still shouting. He was loud enough we could still hear most of what he was saying. Him: "Get out here, you dogs. I'm not done with you. Someone ought to beat you up to teach you some respect." On and on he went with that, but we just stood there laughing and ultimately mocking him. Not the wisest or most mature of choices, but I was 18 and dumb. After a couple minutes of that, we went and browsed some books until it was time to leave. There was him, with the kids, just waiting for us. He spots us and begins shouting again, but we just keep on walking. He follows us all the way back to the theater, shouting the same types of things all the way back. When we get back to the theater, the guy shouts one final thing. "I'll be waiting for you when you leave. Won't be so funny when I put you in the hospital." When we get inside, Bill tells one of the police officers on duty about the guy, and the officer takes care of it. Never saw or heard from about the guy again. Pretty sure he got banned from the theater, though. Story 5. First time posting here. To start out, I do not work, nor have I ever worked retail, and I have never worked anywhere where I was required to conduct any customer service. So this story is a little different. Background: I grew up in the West, running around the Rocky Mountains ever since I can remember. Love the outdoors and nature's diversity. As a result, I know a lot about the animals and their behaviors. I also paid attention to my biology classes in school. When I was a youth 6 to 16 years old, about 50 years ago, the world was a different place back then. My mom would tell us to go outside and play. I would run into the mountains and be gone all day. They were literally our backyard. No, I am not a hillbilly, and I have never met, nor do I know the Clampetts. Wrong mountains anyway, those are just hills. Coming home when the sun would start to set for dinner. So needless to say, I know a lot about the outdoors. Later in life, I chose a career that kept me outside. This incident was back in the mid-90s, but I still remember it like it was yesterday. The dumb still rings in my ears, like tinnitus. I was working for a certain land agency. All references to place and items are obscured to protect the innocent, and got a call that something needed to be looked at immediately. I jumped in my truck and headed out. As I am getting ready to turn off the service road and onto the main highway, a Suburban veered onto the service road, nearly hitting me. Their truck pretty much cuts me off from entering the main road, and they almost caused an accident with another vehicle as they performed their Dukes of Hazzard stunt. As soon as their vehicle came to a sliding stop, The driver's window unrolled. Now Karen wasn't a thing back then, and I'm not sure if the first Karen had been sighted yet. But here she was caged in a vehicle, already seething. I could tell this was going to be an experience I would never forget. I thought I saw an anthropologist lurking in the woods. I should state that it is extremely obvious that I did work there. My truck was plastered with a huge logo on the side, not to mention the license plate. So, I unrolled my window, and this is how the conversation went. "Can I help you?" I asked while thinking, freaking idiot can't drive. Karen, leaning from the passenger side to the driver's side, making her husband become part of his seat. "Can you help us with a question?" Now, I kid you not, she yelled this at me. No hello, no please, nothing. This lady was blonde, early 30s, bob haircut, large sunglasses nearly covering her cheeks. The works, and a growl on her face that would scare a bear. Maybe it was from listening to her kids scream in the back seat. Don't know. "Yeah, we need help," her dumb husband said. He was squished up in his seat trying to be heard over the kids, and he was muffled talking through his wife's sweaty armpit. "Sure, what is your question?" "When do deer become elk?" Karen asked. Me, thinking what the hell, how dumb can you be? Did you climb the idiot tree and hit every branch as you fell down? Did your brains not follow you out of the birth canal? Were they thrown away mistaken for the placenta? Are you smart enough to drive? Obviously not. In a matter-of-fact tone I replied, "They don't." I was proud of myself for not laughing and actually keeping a straight face. She growled, "Yes, they do. I know it." I couldn't believe the question. It is causing me to wonder about my whole existence, my upbringing. I can assure you they don't. They are two different species. They don't even crossbreed. Unlike you and your armpit-sniffing husband. Poor guy, I thought. The kids were still screaming in the back seat. "No, you are lying. I saw it on the Discovery Channel." "Now tell me when," she said with a smug look of omniscience. To this day I cannot listen to that song. You know the one? "Let's do it like they do on the Discovery Channel." They ruined it, and the song wasn't even written yet. Her husband, in a tone that I can only imagine coming from a troglodyte. "Yeah, we watch the Discovery Channel." Me, thinking, man, you are whipped, and stupid to boot. Maybe it was the odorific smell permeating his nostrils and shrinking the few brain cells left in his skull. I can assure you that they do not. You must have misunderstood the show. I was surprising myself that I wasn't speaking my thoughts. That is a rarity for me. But I was genuinely trying to be helpful, for once. "Are you calling me stupid?" The shriek is still hovering in the mountains to this very day, and can be heard as an echo between the canyons if you really listen. The husband sits there with a blank stare of, she is always right look, as she moves backwards to force her words out at a faster pace, trying to make them break the sound barrier or something. Yes, ma'am, I am." But instead, I replied, "Nope." If I thought she was loud before, she is now screaming at me. What is so hard about this? Just freaking tell me when deer turn into elk. The kids in the back seat finally shut up. Now I had been paying attention to the traffic and noticed that there was a clear spot coming up and that I could just squeeze between their car and the stop sign. So I put the truck in first gear, looked at her, shook my head. Any patience I had was now gone and yelled, "Fine, August," and drove off. I knew that they would have to drive a bit to get turned around and then wait for traffic. I did keep an eye on the road behind me for the mile I needed to go before turning into a place where I could lose them. Never saw them again, but I can imagine her telling all her friends that in August all the deer turn into elk. Education by television at its best. Stupid people. Story 6. I'm a new mom, and this story involves me, my baby, and this old lady questioning me. So I live in Canada where I get 1 year maternity leave. Yay, Canada. So a few weeks ago, I went to meet my husband at his work where this story takes place. My husband is an assistant manager, which is a key detail to this story. I'm carrying my son in a chest carrier. This was the first time customers are allowed in the store, and I'm walking around looking at products. I'm also talking to some of my husband's staff, one of them being my child's godparent. Also my god sister. I see this lady walking around with a bit of an attitude, but I choose to ignore her. After all, she is not my problem as I don't work here. Clearly, even if I did, the fact that my child is strapped to my chest means here in Canada, I don't work here for at least 1 year. So the lady is acting like she is in a mood and giving a complete witch face to anyone who can see. Exchange goes like this. Cast is me, Karen, my significant other, godsister, and the store manager. Karen, excuse me, where are all your annuals? Me, well, they usually are around here, but I don't know. Maybe they are sold out. What do you mean sold out? This is a garden center, correct? Yes, but things do sell out. If they aren't here, then I don't know what to tell you. Why are you guys sold out? This is ridiculous. I want to speak to your manager. Well, ma'am, I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you. They don't seem to have them where they usually are. Godsister comes over as she is done for the day to see me and her godchild. I turn to speak to her as she is more of a priority over Karen. Still in uniform, but carrying all her stuff to go home with. Godsister, hey, how is baby? Me. Great. He is sleeping right now, but overall doing really well. How are you? I'm good, just tired. It was a long day. Excited to go home and chill. That's good. Do you need a ride? We can drive you home so you can spend some time with the baby. Yeah, actually I do. That would be awesome. Karen is starting to get red in the face, and I can tell she wants to say something, but she holds off. My husband comes up to me, godsister, and our son to see how we are doing. At this point, Karen is red in the face. Husband, babe, you finding everything okay? Do you want to go into the garden pharmacy with the baby? I started the fan up there for you so you can get nice and cool. Sure, babe, but this lady wants to speak to a manager. I point to the lady. Oh, okay, thanks, babe. He turns to Karen and says, how can I help you? Are you kidding me? You helped her first over me, and she is your spouse. This is nuts. I demand to speak to a manager. Well, ma'am, I'm a manager, and I was just telling my wife that I had a space for her to go sit with our baby to cool off till I'm done work. But how can I help you? I stay close nearby just to see what happens. Seriously, you have your spouse working here? What type of business is this? Wow, this place is a joke, that you hire people like her just to create favoritism. Is this whole place run by you and your damn family? What is wrong with this place? Me and godsister are standing off to the side listening, and I'm feisty so I eventually speak up. Me, well, ma'am, I never said I worked here, and I was being nice to you by saying usually this is where you would find this stuff first off. Second, you see that I'm carrying my child in a carrier, considering in Canada we can take a year off for maternity leave. How do you get the idea I'm working here? Even if I was working here, I would be on leave. Third, as you can see, everyone is wearing different colored uniforms with the company logo. Do you see me wearing one? No, so how do you get the idea that I work here? Use some common sense. And since I am married to one of the managers here, clearly to not make my husband look bad, I was being polite and giving you the best answer I could when I could have easily said to you, I don't work here, so why don't you go find someone who does work here? I don't have to help out anyone, and you coming up to me and being rude despite us being in a pandemic, when we should all treat people kindly, shows what type of person you are. Also, please stop being rude to my husband or unlike him. I can tell you to go shop elsewhere with your bad attitude. But I'm going to tell you good luck elsewhere, as they too will most likely be sold out, and not give any better customer service as this place does. I turn to my godsister, who is dying over there, and give her a huge high five. My husband is gobsmacked, but I can tell is processing. The store manager shows up to say goodnight as well, and to see the baby for the first time. Karen comes up to us and is not distancing now, and recognizes the store manager and starts to complain about what I just said. Excuse me, imagine a long drawn-out tone. You're the store manager, correct? I want to file a complaint about this lady right here. Store manager. Excuse what? What type of complaint? I'm so confused. What's going on here? She explains her version, and says how I have been rude to her from the beginning of her entering the store, and she has been ignored by everyone. The store manager knows me to be anything but rude, so he listens, and then he turns to her and says, "Well, ma'am, I can't take a complaint about fellow customers. Also, I have had the privilege to work with this lady, and she is amazing. Also, you need to back up and give us space as we are still in a pandemic, and you could be exposing the baby to something. Finally, if she tried to help you the way you say she did, that's pretty nice of her since she doesn't have to. Have a good night as the store is now closed for you forever. You can't just be this rude to customers." He walks off and Karen is now screaming about how bad this place is run and favoritism is extremely big here, and that she is going to social media to complain amongst other things that she finds wrong. I just died of laughter, and everyone else who was nearby was shocked. As she was leaving, I just waved bye. So worth it.